Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 6 college football rankings. So, going over last week's rankings and what those teams did in Week 5. Last week, at number 10, I had Utah. They lost to Oregon State 21-7. 9 was Oregon. They beat Stanford 42-6. 8 was Washington, who beat Arizona 31-24. 7 was Penn State. They demolished Northwestern 41-13. 6 was USC. They held off Colorado, winning 48-41. 5 was Ohio State. They did not play. 4 was Texas. They destroyed Kansas, winning 40-14. 3 was Florida State. They had a bye. 2 was Michigan. They demolished Nebraska, winning 45-7. And 1 was Georgia, who escaped Auburn, winning 27-20. So this week's rankings, at number 10, I've got Notre Dame. So they re-entered the top 10 after their 20-14 win over Duke. It was not pretty, but their defense was great. The offense struggled, just scoring 21 points. But it was a win over a good Duke team for Notre Dame on the road. It wasn't great. It was a very ugly win. But I do have them moving up to 10, which is really just a direct result of Utah losing. But Notre Dame, they re-entered the top 10. And up next is another undefeated ACC opponent next week when they travel to Louisville. Number 9, we've got Oregon. So they stay at 9 after they demolished Stanford, winning 42-6. They get off to a slow start, not getting on the board until the second quarter. But once they got on the board, the offense really got going. Bo Nix finished the game with 290 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. And Oregon as a team finished with 208 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So Oregon, they beat another weaker opponent, and they've got a tough stretch coming up. They have a bye next week, and then in 3 consecutive weeks, they play Washington, Washington State, and Utah. But Oregon, they enter at 9 after a big win over Stanford, and have a bye week to prepare for a tough stretch ahead. Coming in at number 8, we've got Washington. So they weren't amazing in their 31-24 win over Arizona State. We all know Washington for their passing attack, but it was their run game that was really good this week with 4 rushing touchdowns. Their passing attack was good as Michael Penix Jr. threw for 363 yards, but the run game was a big part of the offense this week for Washington. Now, Washington wasn't great, especially when you look at the fact that it's only a 7-point win against an Arizona team who's solid, but they were also playing without their starting quarterback. But Washington, they got the win. They check in at number 8. Next week, they got a bye before they face Oregon. 7 is Penn State. They beat Northwestern by a score of 41-13. So it wasn't great for Penn State early as they trailed 10-3 in the second quarter and it was tied 10-10 at halftime. But Penn State, they ended up with 41 points, even though the numbers for the offense weren't great. Quarterback Drew Allar completed just 55% of his passes, and Penn State as a team ran for just 3.4 yards a carry. But a win is a win for Penn State, and even though the stats aren't great, the final score is very good, winning 41-13, and Penn State checks in at number 7. Number 6, we've got USC. So they could definitely move down after their 48-41 win over Colorado. They almost blew a 48-21 lead, which they had in the third quarter. They allowed Colorado to come back and cut the lead to 48-41 before USC recovered the onside kick to seal the win. The offense was great once again, putting up 48 points. Caleb Williams threw for 406 yards and tied a career high of 6 touchdowns. But the defense for USC is very concerning. They allowed 41 points, 564 total yards, and USC got the win. They remain number 6, but their defense is a major issue, and I could definitely see the argument to have them move down because of it. Number 5, we've got Ohio State. They remain at 5 after not playing this past week. Up next is a game against Maryland. Coming in at number 4, we've got Texas. So they were great, especially in the second half in their 40-14 win over Kansas. The offense was great as Texas scored 40 points and put up 661 yards of offense. And they had a very balanced attack. Through the air, Quinn Ewers threw for 325 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And Texas also ran for 336 yards, including 216 rushing yards from Jonathan Brooks. But Texas looked really good dismantling Kansas, and they remain at number 4, although I could see the argument to have them maybe a little bit higher. Coming in at number 3, we've got Florida State. They did not play. They remain at 3. Up next for Florida State is the game against Virginia Tech. Coming in at number 2, we've got Michigan. They demolished Nebraska by a score of 45-7. They're coming off their first 40-point game of the season. They were great offensively, putting up 45 points. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy was good. He had just 4 incompletions and also threw 2 touchdowns. Michigan ran the ball very effectively, finishing the game with 249 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns on 4.9 yards carry. And defensively, Michigan was great as usual. And I considered moving Michigan up to number 1, but I'm going to keep them at 2, although it is a very thin margin between Michigan and Georgia. At number 1, it is Georgia. They were awful in their win over Auburn, winning just 27-20. It was their first road game of the season and the first road start for Carson Beck. Georgia was not very good overall. They played a terrible game, although they ended up getting the win. It was not good for Georgia offensively. They were okay in the second half as Brock Bowers took the game over, and the star tight end finished with 8 catches for 157 yards and a touchdown, which ended up being the game winner. but it was not very good for Georgia offensively or defensively as they gave up 20 points, although the defense did come up with a big fourth down stop late to seal the game. But it was not a good game for Georgia on either side of the ball. Now, I do have Georgia at 1, but they're not deserving of the top spot. But I just don't know who else I could put. Michigan hasn't been amazing, and I don't feel any other team is truly deserving of the top spot, even though I don't think Georgia deserves the number 1 spot either. But they are the defending champs. They haven't lost, so I mean, that's why I've got them at 1 for now. But Georgia's overrated. I don't think they should be number 1, but I don't think there's anyone else to put at number 1. But if Georgia keeps playing these close games, they're going to lose very soon. And my updated playoff predictions, they're going to stay the same, but 1 Georgia, although I don't trust them and I think they're going to lose, but they're going to stay there for now. And the rest are the same. 2 Michigan, 3 Florida State, and 4 either Washington or Notre Dame. Now, I do know some people would say Notre Dame can't make the playoff after they lost to Ohio State. But I had Notre Dame losing to Ohio State in my preseason predictions when I put them in the playoff. And if Notre Dame were to go 11-1 with a 3-point loss to Ohio State on the last play of the game, and Ohio State's a very good team, I think they're going to get into the playoff, which is why I have them tied with Washington for that 4th spot. I truly cannot pick between them. But those are my Week 6 college football rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything from videos. I do my best to post as often as possible. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my rankings, disagree, and why. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.